The version of War of the Worlds you saw in 2005 hides secrets most viewers never noticed. Spielberg bought a real 747 for $2 million that's still at Universal Studios. A floating corpse prop triggered a police search. Tom Cruise demanded to play a terrible father. These are 14 facts about the film that caused a citywide panic with a mannequin, engineered sound frequencies to trigger primal terror, and hid the original 1953 stars in plain sight. 1. The Ghost in the River. During location filming of the haunting river sequence where bloated corpses float past Ray and Rachel, the production used extremely expensive high-end silicone mannequins, disturbingly realistic from even a few feet away. One of the bodies accidentally drifted away from the controlled set area and floated downstream into a public zone. A local resident spotted what appeared to be a real human corpse and immediately called 911. Massive emergency response. Police boats, divers, and rescue teams searching frantically for a drowning victim. After the embarrassing and expensive false alarm, the crew had to start spray painting "Property of Paramount Pictures" in giant fluorescent letters on every single mannequin to prevent future citywide panics. The incident became local news, forced production to be far more careful about securing their disturbing props. 2. That 747 crash wasn't a set. Most directors working on a modest budget would build a lightweight wooden or foam mock-up of a crashed airplane. Steven Spielberg doesn't work that way. He purchased an actual retired Boeing 747 commercial airliner for approximately $2 million. Had his construction crew systematically chop the massive aircraft into pieces using industrial cutting tools. Physically scattered the wreckage across an entire suburban neighborhood set on the Universal Studios backlot. The crashed 747 set was so monumentally large, heavy, and expensive to disassemble that Universal simply left it permanently in place after filming wrapped. To this day, the War of the Worlds plane crash remains a featured attraction on the official Universal Studios tour, because it was literally too massive and costly to haul away. Tourists photograph the wreckage without realizing it's been sitting there for nearly 20 years. 3. Morgan Freeman's one-day narration. The iconic opening and closing voiceover narration, direct tributes to H.G. Wells's original 1898 novel text, were recorded in a single brief session.
No one would have believed in the early years of the 21st century.
Less than 2 hours total. Spielberg specifically pursued Morgan Freeman because he felt Freeman's distinctive voice provided a godlike, omniscient perspective, perfectly balancing the gritty, panicked, ground-level chaos experienced by Tom Cruise's character. Freeman's calm, authoritative delivery creates a framing device positioning the alien invasion as historical record rather than immediate experience, giving the entire film a retrospective quality. Freeman recorded after principal photography wrapped, working from the completed edit, allowing him to time his delivery perfectly to the visuals without needing multiple takes. 4. The three-legged nightmare logic. The absolutely terrifying low-frequency blast of the tripod horn, that bone-rattling bass sound announcing the machine's arrival, was created through complex layering of multiple unlikely sources. The final sound combines the droning tones of an Australian Aboriginal didgeridoo, the deep foghorn from an actual lighthouse, and heavily slowed-down recordings of industrial roller coaster braking systems. Sound designer Randy Tom's explicit goal, engineering a sound that felt simultaneously mechanical but somehow alive. Designed at a frequency specifically calculated to trigger primitive fight-or-flight neurological responses in human listeners. The horn operates at frequencies low enough to be felt physically in the chest and stomach rather than just heard, creating visceral discomfort that bypasses rational thought and triggers instinctual terror. 5. Tom Cruise's dad's "don't do that" rule. Tom Cruise specifically requested to play Ray Ferrier as an explicitly bad father who makes terrible decisions under pressure. Throughout Cruise's career, he'd almost exclusively played hyper-competent heroes who instinctively know exactly what to do in crisis situations.
Okay, because lightning doesn't strike twice in the same place. Shit!
For War of the Worlds, Cruise wanted Ray to be realistically panicked, occasionally selfish, and genuinely incompetent at parenting. He personally insisted on the scene where Ray impulsively throws a piece of bread at the kitchen window out of pure frustration,
Be fine, okay?
demonstrating he has absolutely no idea how to communicate with or comfort his terrified children. Cruise felt the character's flaws made him more relatable than another generic action hero. The performance divided audiences. Some appreciated the vulnerability. Others felt uncomfortable watching Tom Cruise struggle and fail repeatedly. 6. The missing 2026 warning. Incredibly easy to miss background prop detail in the claustrophobic basement scenes with Ogilvy. A scattered pile of old survivalist and conspiracy theory magazines. Freeze frame the 4K Ultra HD version and examine the covers closely. One prominently features a headline predicting an imminent global catastrophe event beginning in early 2026, a deliberate Easter egg planted by the production design team, a knowing nod to the cyclic nature of alien invasion storytelling and humanity's recurring apocalyptic anxieties. Whether the 2026 date was random or based on some predictive model is unknown, but it's become yet another example of mid-2000s science fiction accidentally pointing toward the mid-2020s as a pivotal moment. 7. Dakota Fanning. The one-take legend. Dakota Fanning was only 10 years old during production. Her professionalism was so extraordinary that Steven Spielberg nicknamed her the 30-year-old on set.
When it's ready, my body will just push it out.
Crew members report that Fanning never missed a single line of dialogue across months of filming, maintained perfect emotional consistency across multiple takes. Most impressively, she performed the absolutely terrifying ferry crossing sequence, surrounded by hundreds of screaming, panicking extras creating overwhelming chaos in a single unbroken take, without getting rattled or breaking character. Child actors typically struggle with maintaining focus during complex crowd scenes. Fanning delivered a perfect performance on the first attempt. Her scream is one of the most iconic sounds in the film. It came from genuine emotional commitment rather than technical acting. 8. The red weed is actually fertilizer. To create the disturbing alien red weed gradually spreading across houses, cars, and landscapes, the art department developed a specific mixture. Shredded red-dyed plastic combined with nitrogen-rich agricultural foam used in industrial farming. The material was engineered to visually resemble organic veins pumping blood through the environment, literally representing the aliens using human biology as fuel to transform Earth's ecosystem. The red weed had to be lightweight enough not to damage set construction, but substantial enough to look genuinely alive and invasive. The foam material actually continued expanding slightly after application, creating an unsettling growing effect that reinforced the idea of Earth being consumed by alien biology. 9. The Bike Shop Easter Egg. The legendary scene where the first tripod violently emerges from underground was filmed on location in Newark, New Jersey, not on a studio backlot. The production design team temporarily transformed a real local shop into a fictional business called Vapor's Bike Shop. The name was a hidden tribute to the original 1953 War of the Worlds film, where the Martian invaders wielded devastating heat ray weapons that essentially vaporized everything in their path, reducing humans and buildings to ash instantly. The subtle reference rewarded fans familiar with the earlier adaptation, remaining invisible to casual viewers who just saw generic set dressing. 10. The suicidal ending that was cut in an early draft. The climax included a sequence where the desperate U.S. military decides to deploy a small tactical nuclear weapon directly against the tripod force fields outside Boston, essentially bombing American soil in a last-ditch attempt to save humanity. Spielberg ultimately cut the nuclear strike. He felt depicting the United States government using atomic weapons on its own territory and potentially killing civilian populations was too dark and nihilistic, even for this already bleak film. Spielberg preferred maintaining H.G. Wells's original biological miracle ending, where bacteria defeats the invaders, preserving the poetic justice of the smallest organisms destroying the most advanced technology, rather than human weapons achieving victory. 11. The camera car high-speed chase. The extended continuous shot showing the Ferrier family's desperate highway escape, with the camera smoothly moving around the vehicle's exterior and swooping through windows to capture terrified faces, required extraordinary technical precision. The sequence was filmed using a custom-built stabilized camera arm mounted on a specially modified high-performance Mercedes-Benz chase vehicle. The camera rig had to weave in and out of the minivan's windows while both vehicles traveled at sustained speeds exceeding 40 miles per hour. A coordinated team of a dozen specialized technicians operated the mechanical arm. One mistake could have caused serious injury or destroyed expensive equipment. One of the production's most technically demanding and dangerous sequences. Just 12. The mirror shot in the kitchen. Subtle visual metaphor embedded in the scene where Ray stands alone in his kitchen immediately after surviving the first tripod attack. When he looks at his reflection in a cracked mirror, the fracture lines split his face into precisely 3 separate pieces. Spielberg's deliberate visual representation of the tripod influenced fragmenting Ray's world and identity. 3 separate lives, himself and his 2 estranged children, Robbie and Rachel, that he must somehow hold together despite being fundamentally broken. The composition reinforces the film's thematic focus on Ray's journey from disconnected deadbeat dad to protective father willing to sacrifice everything. The mirror image appears for only seconds, but encapsulates the character's entire emotional arc in a single frame. 13. The real-life 1938 Panic tribute. Spielberg deliberately included a scene showing a television news crew attempting to document the tripod invasion, only to have their camera equipment mysteriously fail and shut down before they can transmit footage. A knowing reference to Orson Welles' infamous 1938 radio broadcast adaptation, which caused genuine mass panic across America because listeners believed they were hearing real news reports of a Martian invasion. Spielberg wanted to demonstrate that in a modern alien invasion scenario, our electronic eyes, cameras, phones, broadcasting technology, would be among the first systems the invaders would disable, to prevent humans from organizing resistance. The scene reinforces the film's theme of technological vulnerability and forced regression to primitive survival. 14. The original cast, Cameo. The final hidden tribute most viewers completely miss. The elderly couple who warmly greet Ray's children at the end during the Boston reunion aren't random background actors. They're played by Gene Barry and Anne Robinson, the lead actors from the original 1953 War of the Worlds film. Spielberg specifically cast them as symbolic survivors of the franchise itself, visually passing the torch from the classic Cold War-era adaptation to the modern post-9/11 version. Their presence creates a beautiful metatextual layer. The original heroes have lived to see humanity survive yet another fictional invasion, bridging 60 years of storytelling. Most audiences never recognize them, but their appearance is Spielberg's respectful acknowledgement of the cinematic lineage he's inheriting. So, if the ground started cracking open beneath your feet and tripods emerged, are you heading for the basement or making a run for the ferry? Spielberg's answer: it doesn't matter where you run. Survival is luck, not competence. Let me know in the comments if the 2005 tripod design is still the most terrifying version we've ever seen. If you want more deep dives into films that turned our worst fears into spectacle, hit subscribe. See you in the next one.